All right, so got all the walls built, everything constructed well. We still need to put a top on it, and we're going to make an integrated lid. But before we do that, if you look at this box here, you can see it's a little taller than it is in every other direction. So if that bothers you and you really want a true cube, we can trim this down a little bit now. The other reason you would trim it down if for some reason one of your walls ended up shorter than the other. So if that bothers you, you can see what I've got laid out on there. If I cut this down to 4 and 5/8. All right, yep, 4 5/8 tall. By the time I put the last slab on the top, it'll be a perfect 5 by 5 by 5 cube. Again, you don't have to do that, but if you wanted to do that, you would mark here and here, connect the dot, and then use a nice sharp clean fettling knife to slice that off. When you're doing that, don't saw at it, just make a nice slice. Okay, so I'm going to do that to mine, and then I'm going to show you how to put that last slab on the top. Okay, so this is my last slab for the top. So cutting this larger is very important on this one because unless you're a robot and built that perfectly square, it may not match your template. So especially with a more complicated project. So I cut this about a ½ an inch bigger all the way around. I am just going to barely mark where the template goes. That'll give me an idea of where I need to slip and score. So I'm just kind of using the back of the knife to just kind of lightly scratch where I need to slip and score. So I'll go ahead and slip and score this. Again, kind of on the inside of that line and then maybe just slightly over. Okay, and I'm going to put slip on that, and then I'll go ahead and slip and score the top here. So good score marks. Plenty of slip on there all the way around. Okay, so sometimes what can happen is this slab being the one I most recently rolled out, if I put that right on top of there, sometimes it wants to cave in. So what I like to do is take this slab, place it on top, give it a little bit of a squish down, and this is all right. So I've got my slab on top of there, slip facing down, push it down, get it kind of stuck in place. And now I'm going to take my second project board. I've got my piece of plastic from that. Put that there. And what I've kind of got here is an Oreo sandwich. So project board, and slab box in the middle. And I'm going to flip it over. Okay, so now that I've got that flipped over, I can trim this to the exact right size. So again, the reason why we don't trim this right away is because if your box is a little crooked or whatever, that perfect 5 by 5 is not going to fit. So keep in mind when you're trimming this, you don't want the knife kind of angling out, which is the temptation. I don't want to follow that line and you end up angling out. You should be able to use the knife and just cut straight down. So before you cut, make sure it's exactly what you want, where you want. And make sure that knife is not angled. Okay, so last thing I'm going to do to this one before we cut our lid is go ahead and Frankenstein the outside. So with my wood knife, holding it and gently Frankenstein across there so that I don't end up mushing it out of shape. And I'm going to leave it stored like this. So what was the bottom is now the top. Again, sometimes that other slab will want to collapse in and kind of cave in on it. So this will keep that from happening if we go ahead and just flip it over and make this part the new bottom and this part the new top. So next steps, I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna just kind of clean up, pretty everything up. I can use some of this clay shaving off of there, some slip to fill in these scratches. Again, I like the flat side of the wood knife for just kind of shaving that off. Again, straight up and down, get some of that extra material. Use some slip. I'll let that slip kind of sit up in there, just in those scratches a little bit. Again, those Frankenstein stitches really help lock this together, so make sure you do those well on there. All right, go team.